My mom disowned me for being a factory worker. She texted the family group chat, Mother's Day dinner for successful kids only. There's no room for losers. I didn't argue, just quietly moved away. Years later, she regretted it. Subreddit, my mom dropped a Mother's Day dinner invite in the family group chat and somehow turned it into a public ranking of her kids. My siblings reacted like it was normal, like I wasn't even in the room. So I made one quiet decision that changed everything. I, 32 male, and when I tell people I work at a factory, their faces do this awkward little twitch. Like I just admitted I collect roadkill or watch infomercials for fun. Oh, that's honest work, they'll say, in that same condescending tone you'd use to congratulate a golden retriever for not eating its own vomit. Real uplifting energy there, Susan. But here's the thing. Nobody seems to understand. I actually like my job. I know exactly when I clock in, exactly what I'm producing, and I fix real problems with my actual hands. I'm not sitting in some fluorescent lit depression chamber pretending my oat milk latte addiction makes me interesting while I shuffle PowerPoints around like a corporate card dealer, hoping nobody notices. I contribute absolutely nothing to the human experience. I made a choice that apparently made me unforgivable. I stayed in town when my dad died, turned down a full ride to state, civil engineering program, partial housing covered, the whole package, because my mom was drowning in medical bills. And my older brother Blaze, our family's crown prince of cardiology, couldn't possibly delay his precious med school admission to help out. That would have interrupted his destiny of becoming the guy who tells rich people their blood pressure is concerning while charging $600 for a 20-minute appointment where he mostly just nods. So I did what needed to be done. I took a job at Meridian Manufacturing, same plant my dad worked at for 28 years. Same industrial smell of machine oil and metal shavings, same thundering presses that shook the floor, same worn-down lockers with names carved into the paint like tombstones for people who gave their whole lives to this place. My dad's name was still there, R. Whitlock, scratched into locker 52 with what looked like a box cutter. I requested that locker specifically on my first day. The floor manager looked at me like I'd asked to adopt his kidney, but didn't push back. Mom hated it, hated me for choosing it. This isn't what your father wanted, she'd say, walking past me without making eye contact, like my existence was a coffee stain on her vision of what a perfect family photo should look like. Like I'd personally insulted her by not becoming a surgeon or hedge fund manager or whatever LinkedIn-approved career path she'd imagined so she could casually mention it at her yoga retreats. According to her master plan, I was supposed to become someone, a name she could casually drop at her book club between bites of overpriced charcuterie. Oh yes, Garrett's doing wonderfully. He's in venture capital now, you know. Instead, she got the son who fixed the roof when it started leaking during the October storms. The son who drove 40 minutes to her house at 2 a.m. when the basement flooded because Blaze was on call and Rue was 3 time zones away, and Bryn just didn't answer the phone. I spent 6 hours with a shop vac and a sump pump while she stood at the top of the stairs complaining about water damage to her vintage rug collection. I paid for half my dad's funeral too. The whole service. The casket. The reception afterward where people ate finger sandwiches and told stories about a man most of them hadn't visited in years. Blaze sent flowers. From a hospital gift shop. With a card that said, with deepest sympathy, in pre-printed script. Couldn't even be bothered to write something personal. Rue flew in for exactly 40 hours. Just long enough to post a tasteful black and white photo on Instagram with a caption about honoring his memory before catching her flight back to Portland. Bryn cried beautifully at the service, then asked me if Dad had left anything valuable because she needed help with her student loans. I handled the estate, the paperwork, the creditors calling at all hours, the slow, painful process of closing out a man's life while everyone else went back to their regularly scheduled programming. I found his old watch in a drawer, a Timex he'd worn every day for 30 years. The band was cracked, and the crystal was scratched, but it still kept perfect time. I wear it now. None of them even asked about it. I never complained. Not once. I figured this was just the cost of being the steady one, the reliable one, the one who stayed when everyone else had somewhere more important to be. Then came Mother's Day. I'd just finished a 12-hour shift troubleshooting a hydraulic press that kept throwing error codes like it was personally offended by Wednesdays. My back felt like someone had used it as a speed bump. I was standing in my cramped apartment kitchen, microwaving leftover spaghetti like a real gourmet king, when my phone buzzed. Family group text. I opened it expecting some generic Happy Mother's Day chain message. What I got instead felt like someone reached through the screen and slapped me across the face with a frozen salmon. Mom's message read, Happy Mother's Day dinner. Sunday at 6 p.m. at Carrabba's on Highland Avenue. I'm so proud of all my children who've worked hard and succeeded in life. You're what makes being a mom worth it. Blaze, doctor. Rue, financial analyst. Bryn, business development manager. That was it. No Garrett. No acknowledgement I existed at all. Like I'd been photoshopped out of the family portrait. I stared at the screen, waiting for the punchline. Maybe she hit send too early. Maybe there was a follow-up coming. Then the second message dropped. Some choices are too embarrassing to include. I no longer recognize anyone who chooses factory work over ambition. This dinner is for my successful children only. I read it 7 times. Then 4 more times, just to make sure I wasn't having a stroke from hydraulic fluid fumes. And here's what really twisted the knife. Nobody said a darn thing. Not Blaze. Not Rue. Not Bryn. The chat sat there in screaming silence. 3 people who'd known me their entire lives, watching their brother get publicly disowned, and not one of them had the spine to type a single word of protest. Then the responses started rolling in. Blaze posted a thumbs-up emoji, like mom had just shared a recipe for banana bread. Rue replied, "Can't wait. Should I bring dessert?" Bryn dropped a dancing flower sticker. The kind you send when someone announces a pregnancy, not when your mother just excommunicated your sibling via text message. That's it. Like everything was totally fine. Like their brother hadn't just been publicly disowned over a group text, like some expired Groupon voucher. I thought about all the roofs I'd patched, all the midnight emergency calls I'd answered, all the bills I'd quietly covered so nobody had to worry. The time I took 3 days off work to drive mom to her knee surgery and back because nobody else could fit it in their schedule. And this was the return on investment. A group text telling me I wasn't worth a seat at Carrabba's. Then I did something I'd never done before. I almost typed a response, but I didn't. Instead, I opened the settings, left the group, blocked every single number, set the phone face down on the counter, and finished my pasta. Not because I was okay, because I was done expecting to be. The next morning I went to work like nothing happened. Same alarms, same machines, same jokes, but something in me had snapped quiet, like a breaker tripped and never flipped back on. That night I wiped them out, deleted photos, left group chats, muted them all. Missed one number, learned that when Bryn's voicemail came through 2 weeks later, asking if I could help move a couch. Muted that one too. Anybody who watched me get disowned and stayed silent got cut off. If you're neutral while someone gets stomped, you're on the wrong team. Nobody reached out. No awkward check-in. No, "You good?" Nothing. They let me disappear like it saved them a headache. I ran into Blaze at the grocery store 6 months later. He saw me in the cereal aisle, made eye contact, then turned his cart around and walked the other direction. Wasn't worth 30 seconds of awkwardness. So I stopped waiting for a family that already made their choice. I enrolled in night classes, worked days, studied nights. Some nights I almost called, almost asked why. I never did. I wasn't auditioning to be ignored again. I built something solid instead. Certifications, skills, a life that didn't depend on their approval. And after a while, I caught myself laughing for real again. Not because they came back, because I finally stopped needing them to. I learned every machine on that factory floor. Memorized the quirks, the warning signs, the sounds that meant trouble. Studied the electrical systems until I could trace a fault in my sleep. Figured out why the ancient packaging robot glitched every 3rd Wednesday. Mismatched voltage regulators from the 90s. Nobody bothered to fix it because that's just how Robbie is. I fixed Robbie. Named him myself. When the plant's main conveyor seized during a rush order, $12,000 an hour in losses, I was running on 4 hours of sleep. I bypassed the faulty sensor, rerouted the logic board, had it running in 40 minutes. The contractor they'd called said 2 days and 15 grand. I did it with a multimeter and tape. The plant manager watched the whole thing. Didn't say a word until the line moved. Then he nodded and walked back to his office. 2 weeks later, my name showed up on a memo about critical personnel retention. One afternoon, my supervisor pulled me aside. "Hey, Whitlock, you ever thought about running a line?" 6 years I'd been there, and nobody had ever said those words to me. "Sure, what's the catch?" He laughed. "No catch. You've been doing the work anyway. Might as well pay you for it." 2 months later, I was off the production floor in a small glass office overlooking the operation. The AC worked 60% of the time. The chair squeaked. The desk had carvings scratched into the surface like factory cave paintings. But it was mine. I finished my certification that spring. Industrial Management and Systems Operations. Came with a 24% raise and a badge that said Line Supervisor. I still wore the same boots, just polished them now. And I still told no one. As far as my family knew, if they ever thought about me, I was still the disappointment in coveralls. Let them think that. That's when I met Saskia. She worked in inventory control. First thing she ever said to me, if you're taking over line 4, fix the barcode scanner. I'm not logging another 42 duplicates because some intern kicked the mounting stand loose. Hi, I'm Garrett. She didn't smile. Fix the scanner, Garrett. I fixed it that afternoon. Fell in love a little bit in the process. Saskia brought her own lunch in Tupperware and could recalibrate a sensor faster than half the maintenance guys. She called out problems directly and treated everyone the same. The first time I saw her corner a supplier rep who'd shorted us 3 pallets, I knew I was in trouble. She pulled out the PO, the delivery manifest, and the weight discrepancy. The guy left looking like he'd been cross-examined. 3 days later, we got a full credit and a handwritten apology from his regional manager. We started slow. Coffee, lunch, carpooling. Then one rainy night, I drove her home. You want to come in? I've got leftover chili and a couch that doesn't judge. That was it. After a few months, we moved in together. Small apartment, east side of town. Good water pressure. Landlord who fixed things. Saskia asked once, do your folks know about us? I laughed. They don't even know I still exist. You okay with that? More than okay. I've never been more peaceful in my life. We got married at the courthouse on a rainy Thursday. Just her, me, a board judge, and 2 witnesses we grabbed from the waiting area. Pancakes afterward. One of the witnesses made a toast with orange juice that made Saskia laugh so hard she snorted. She kept her last name. 7 months later, she showed me a pregnancy test. 2 lines. I don't know how to be a mom, she said, crying. I don't want to raise a kid in silence like we both grew up with. I took her hand. This kid is going to know they're loved before they know their own name. That's the whole job. She wiped her eyes. Do you want to tell your family? No. People who can erase you once will try it again. They'll want access to my kid so they can have something new to brag about. I'm not giving them that. By the time Saskia was 5 months along, I'd been promoted twice. Not because I was exceptional, because I was cheaper than the consultants, and I didn't complain. The factory modernized. I helped design the new systems, the kind of work that keeps disasters from happening before anyone knows they were coming. They gave me a title, Senior Plant Director, Corner Office, paycheck with a comma in it, the kind of salary my mother used to brag about blaze making, except I got there without 6 figures in student loans or a decade in residency. I updated my LinkedIn because recruiters kept messaging me about my old title. Figured I might as well have the right information out there. Didn't think twice about it. 4 days later, my phone buzzed. Rue. Hey, stranger. Saw your LinkedIn. Senior Plant Director? Mom was so proud when I told her. We should catch up soon. The same Rue who said nothing when Mom cut me out. The same Rue who brought dessert to the dinner I wasn't invited to. The same Rue who let 6 years pass without a single text, call, or email until she saw a title worth mentioning. 3 hours later, Mom called. I watched it ring, watched it go to voicemail. Her message was chipper, casual, like she was calling to chat about the weather. Hi, sweetheart. I saw your picture in the paper. You look so handsome and successful. I always knew you were capable of big things. Why didn't you tell us? Your brother and sisters were just saying how proud they are. Call me back when you get a chance. Love you. I listened to it once. Almost called back. Muscle memory, the old programming kicking in. Then I deleted it. That night, I drove home and had dinner with Saskia. Grilled cheese and tomato soup, because she was craving something that feels like childhood, but without the emotional damage. After dinner, I told Saskia about the voicemail. She listened without interrupting, then asked, do you want to call her back? No. Do you want to tell her off in some epic, soul-crushing email? I laughed. Tempting, but no. What do you want, Garrett? I thought about it. Nothing, I said finally. That's the best part. I want absolutely nothing from her. Not her approval, not her apology, not even the satisfaction of watching her realize what she lost. Mom didn't take the hint. 3 weeks after I ignored her voicemail and the 4 follow-up texts, I got a call from building security. I was reviewing a supplier contract, sipping break-room coffee that tasted like burnt ambition and regret. Mr. Whitlock, there's a woman in the lobby asking to see you. Says she's your mother? I stood up, walked to the window, and looked down 6 floors. And there she was, standing by the main entrance like she belonged there. Same perfectly styled silver hair. Same beige cardigan and pearls combo she wore to every charity luncheon. Same posture that screamed, I'm a sweet older woman visiting my successful son, and not, I publicly disowned this man via group text 6 years ago. She looked like she was expecting a Hallmark movie reunion, swelling orchestral music, a tearful embrace in the lobby. Does she have an appointment? I asked. The security guard hesitated. She says she's family, sir. She told me I wasn't her son. So no, she isn't family. Silence on the other end. Then, professionally, understood, Mr. Whitlock. Would you like us to escort her off the premises? Yes, politely but firmly. And log it. If she shows up again, don't let her inside. I didn't go back to my supplier contract. I called the head of site security and asked for something boring on purpose. An incident report. Times, date, who she spoke to, how long she stayed, the moment she got told to leave. I wanted it in writing like it was a forklift accident, not a mom moment. Then I emailed HR and security from my work account. Short and clinical. This person is not authorized to visit me. If she appears again, do not let her pass the lobby. If she refuses to leave, treat it like any other trespass issue. No backstory, no feelings, just policy. Funny thing about paperwork, it doesn't care who gave birth to who. I hung up and watched from the window. The guard walked over, keeping his body language neutral. Spoke to her quietly, pointed toward the parking lot. Mom didn't leave right away. She stood there for almost 25 minutes, arms folded across her chest, chin tilted slightly upward. That same angle she used when I told her I was taking the factory job. The posture that communicated, "You're embarrassing me," without requiring actual words. 25 minutes of standing there, waiting for what? A wave from the window? A change of heart? A dramatic last-minute sprint through the lobby doors? She didn't get any of it. Eventually, she turned and walked back to her car. A silver Honda Accord, probably still sporting that "proud mom of an honor student" bumper sticker from when Blaze made the dean's list 16 years ago. At 6:18 p.m., after she was long gone, my phone buzzed. Text from Bryn. "She drove 3 hours to see you, Garrett. 3 hours. You could have at least come downstairs. She was crying outside your building. How could you do that to her?" Oh, now they cry. Now it's a tragedy. Now I'm the villain. I typed back, "She erased me from the family for choosing factory work. You all watched and said nothing. She's crying now because she can't rewrite the ending to make herself look better." Sent. Then blocked her too. That night, Saskia got home with Thai takeout and swollen ankles. She kicked off her shoes, saw the look on my face, and said, "Okay, which one tried it this time?" Mom showed up at my job, in person. Stood in the lobby like she was waiting for her reservation at a nice restaurant. Her eyebrows shot up. "Did you talk to her?" "Nope." Security walked her out. Saskia set down the food and nodded slowly. After dinner, I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder I hadn't touched in years. It was labeled Receipts. Inside was one screenshot, the Mother's Day group chat. Some choices are too embarrassing to include. I no longer recognize anyone who chooses factory work over ambition. This dinner is for my successful children only. I looked at it for exactly 7 seconds, then closed the laptop. Saskia leaned over. "Why do you keep that?" I shrugged. "Not out of bitterness. Just to remember what gaslighting sounds like when it comes back later pretending to be love." 4 days later, she showed up at our door. No warning, no text. Just the doorbell ringing at 7:30 p.m. on a Tuesday, while Saskia and I were halfway through leftover pizza and a nature documentary about penguins doing penguin things. Saskia froze mid-bite. "Were we expecting someone?" I checked my phone. Nothing. Walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Mom, standing on my front porch in her church clothes, holding a casserole dish wrapped in aluminum foil, like this was some kind of wholesome small-town apology tour. My blood pressure spiked so fast, I could hear it in my ears. My hand was shaking when I reached for the deadbolt. I opened the door halfway. Didn't step outside. Didn't invite her in. "What are you doing here?" Her face did that thing. The practiced soft smile, the one she uses on strangers at the grocery store when she wants to seem approachable. "Garrett, sweetheart, I just wanted to talk. Face to face. Like adults. You could have called. You blocked my number. Yeah, I did that on purpose." She shifted the casserole dish in her hands, looking past me into the house. "Can I come in? Just for a few minutes. I brought your favorite green bean casserole with the crispy onions on top." I didn't move. "You drove 3 hours to bring me a casserole?" "I drove 3 hours because I miss my son." Her voice cracked just enough to sound sincere. Oscar-worthy performance. "Please, Garrett, let me explain." I heard Saskia's footsteps behind me, felt her hand on my lower back. A silent reminder that I wasn't alone in this. "Garrett," Saskia said quietly. "Who is it?" Mom's expression flickered, just for a second. The warmth drained out of her eyes and got replaced with something colder. She looked Saskia up and down like she was evaluating livestock at a county fair. You must be Saskia, Mom said, voice still sweet but with an edge now. I'm Diane, Garrett's mother. Saskia stepped beside me, one hand resting protectively on her belly. I know who you are. Mom's smile tightened. I was hoping we could all sit down and talk this through. I'm sure Garrett's told you his version of things, but there's always two sides to every story. His version? Saskia's tone went flat. You mean the screenshots? Mom's jaw tightened. The mask slipped. Well, I can see he's got you convinced I'm some kind of monster. Nobody had to convince me of anything, Saskia said. I read what you wrote. Mom set the casserole dish down on the porch railing. Hard. Loud enough that the foil crinkled. You know what? Fine. I came here to apologize, but clearly you've already poisoned him against me. She turned her attention back to me. You're just like your father, Garrett. Stubborn. Smug. Acting like you're better than everyone because you think working with your hands makes you some kind of saint. Stop, I said. Mom ignored me, kept her eyes locked on Saskia. And I know exactly what happened here. You found yourself a woman who tells you what you want to hear. That your family's the problem. That you deserve better. That you should walk away from the people who raised you. Get off my property, I said. What? You heard me. Get off my property. Garrett, I'm your mother. You came here pretending you wanted to apologize, but you didn't. You wanted me to fold. And when I didn't, you attacked my wife, the woman carrying your granddaughter. Mom's face twisted. I raised you. I fed you. Clothed you. And this is the thanks I get? You turning into your father, arrogant, ungrateful. My father was the only person in that house who ever made me feel like I mattered. So yeah, if being like him means standing up for myself and protecting my family, then I'll take that as a compliment. She stared at me for a long moment, waiting for me to crack. I closed the door instead, locked it, pulled out my phone and opened the Ring app, just in case she decided to escalate. Saskia wrapped her arms around me from behind. You okay? Yeah, I am. We watched through the app as Mom grabbed the casserole dish, got in her car, and sat there for a full 3 minutes, probably hoping I'd chase after her. I saved the footage, sent it to myself, saved a backup to the cloud, forwarded a copy to my attorney with a timestamp. We're getting a restraining order, right? Saskia asked. Yeah, first thing tomorrow. Next morning, I hired an attorney. I handed over the screenshot, the workplace incident report, and last night's Ring footage. He printed a cease and desist and a no trespass notice, sent them certified mail. I called the non-emergency line, made a police report about the verbal abuse and uninvited visit, got a case number. Then I called Mom one last time before the paperwork landed. She answered on the second ring. Garrett? Oh, sweetheart, I'm so glad you called. I've been thinking about last night, and Don't come to my home again, I said. Don't contact my wife. You had your chance to treat me like family, and you chose not to. Garrett, please, I didn't mean... You meant every word. You always do. Silence on the other end. She tried again, voice smaller now. Can I at least meet my granddaughter? Just once. Please. I didn't yell. Didn't shake. Just delivered the sentence I'd been carrying in my chest for 6 years. I no longer see you as family, she gasped. A sharp, wounded intake of breath, like I'd reached through the phone and slapped her. I wanted her to feel it. Not proud of that. Still true. I hung up, blocked the number, deleted the voicemail she left 3 minutes later. 3 weeks later, Mom ignored the certified letters. Showed up at Saskia's OB appointment. Rue had stalked Saskia's Instagram, found a post with the clinic's geotag. Mom waited in the parking lot, arms open, wounded, grandmother face ready. She'd even brought a teddy bear. Pink bow. Price tag still attached. Saskia locked the car doors. Called me. I told her to stay put and document everything. She filmed Mom circling the vehicle for 8 minutes, knocking on the window, pressing her face against the glass, holding up the teddy bear like it was a peace offering instead of a prop in her performance. When Saskia finally drove away, Mom followed her for 3 blocks before turning off. That footage went to my attorney. He filed for a civil harassment restraining order the next day. A week later, I sat in a courtroom. Mom was there in her church cardigan costume, looking confused that tears weren't working on a judge with a packed calendar. I didn't give a speech. I handed over exhibits, the screenshot, the workplace incident, the certified mail receipts, Ring footage of her at my house, including the verbal abuse, Ring footage of the OB parking lot, the video of her following my wife's car. The judge skimmed the paperwork and looked at my mother, like she was a grown adult who should have known better. Mom had hired her own attorney, some guy in a suit that cost more than my first car, who kept trying to frame this as a family misunderstanding. The judge wasn't buying it. Mom tried to explain. Your Honor, I just wanted to meet my granddaughter. I'm her grandmother. Ma'am, the judge said, you don't have a right to contact them. You were sent a legal notice to cease contact. You showed up at her workplace, her home, her medical appointment. That's not reconciliation. That's harassment. Order granted. No contact, no visits, no third-party messages through siblings. The clerk handed me the paperwork like it was a receipt. Mom tried to reach for me as we left the courtroom. My attorney stepped between us. The order is effective immediately. Please don't make today worse. She waited for me to crack. I walked out without looking back. Our daughter was born 2 weeks later. I held her in the hospital room and felt something I couldn't name at first. Relief, maybe, or purpose. Something solid I could hold on to while everything else sorted itself out. Saskia looked exhausted and perfect. The baby looked like a tiny, angry potato. I was completely in love with both of them. The first year was a blur of diaper changes, sleepless nights, and learning how to function on 3 hours of sleep. We built a routine. Ivy's first birthday came faster than I expected. We invited a handful of friends, people who'd shown up during the quiet years, not just when there were headlines to react to. No extended relatives, no forced smiles, just love, the kind you don't have to earn. Then the doorbell rang. I was in the kitchen refilling the lemonade pitcher when I heard it. Didn't think much of it, figured someone forgot something in their car. But when I walked into the living room, Saskia was standing at the front door with her hand frozen on the handle, staring through the peephole like she'd just spotted a bomb on the porch. Don't open it, she said quietly. Who is it? She stepped back. Her jaw was tight. Your family. I looked through the peephole myself. All 4 of them. Mom front and center, holding a wrapped present with a giant pink bow. Blaze standing behind her in his country club casual outfit. Rue with her phone already out, probably ready to document the heartwarming reunion for social media. Bryn clutching a bouquet of flowers like she was attending a funeral she didn't want to be at. They looked nervous, rehearsed, like they'd carpooled here together and spent the whole ride practicing their apology speeches. I unlocked the door and opened it halfway. Didn't step outside. Didn't invite them in. What are you doing here? We're family, Mom said. We just want to meet our niece, your daughter. Surely you can't deny us that. I can. And I am. Bryn stepped forward, eyes already red like she'd been crying in the car. Garrett, please. We made mistakes. We know that. But it's been years. Can't we just start over? For Ivy's sake? Blaze cleared his throat. We should have said something. You're right. But we're here now. Doesn't that count for something? No, it doesn't. Mom's smile cracked. Garrett, I'm your mother. I made mistakes, yes. But I've been thinking about you every single day. I miss you. I miss us. You missed having someone to call when your basement flooded. You don't miss me. You miss the version of me that showed up and fixed your problems without complaining. Saskia appeared beside me, one hand resting on my arm. She didn't say anything. Didn't need to. Her presence was enough. Can we at least come inside for a few minutes? Mom asked. Meet Ivy? We brought her gifts. You're violating a restraining order right now. You're not supposed to be within 500 feet of me, my wife, or my daughter. That includes showing up at my house uninvited on my kid's birthday. Mom's face went pale. I thought, after all this time, surely we could move past it. You thought wrong. Leave. Rue held up her phone. We just want to see her for 5 minutes. Just let us say happy birthday. Please, we drove 3 hours. Saskia's voice went cold. You drove 3 hours to crash a party you weren't invited to. Bryn started crying harder. We're sorry, okay? We're really, really sorry. What more do you want from us? I don't want anything from you. That's the point. Mom's voice cracked. You can't mean that. I'm your mother. You can't just erase me. You erased me first. I'm just respecting your decision. Look, man, we get it, Blaze said. We screwed up, but family is family. We can work through this. Family shows up on the hard days, not just when there's something in it for them. You made your choice 6 years ago. I'm making mine now. I started closing the door. Mom lunged forward, trying to wedge herself in the doorway. Garrett, please, just let me meet her once. I'm her grandmother. She deserves to know her grandmother. She deserves to know people who actually love her, not people who show up when it's convenient. Saskia pulled out her phone. If you're not off our property in 30 seconds, I'm calling the police. The restraining order is still active. You know that. Mom stared at me like I'd just shot her. How can you be this cruel? After everything I've done for you, everything you did for me? You mean raising me? That's called basic parenting. You don't get a trophy for doing the bare minimum. Rue tried one last time. What about Ivy? Don't you want her to have grandparents, aunts and uncles, a real family? She has a real family. Us. And people who've actually been there for us. You're strangers who happen to share my DNA. I closed the door, locked it, turned the deadbolt for good measure. Mom pounded on it, hard, kept yelling my name like that would change anything. I walked back to the living room where Ivy was still sitting on the floor, frosting smeared across her cheeks, completely oblivious to the chaos at the front door. Our friends had gone quiet, watching me carefully. Sorry about that, I said. Uninvited guests. They're leaving now. Then I called 911. They showed up 10 minutes later. One officer knocked on my door, while the others kept my family corralled on the driveway. I let him inside. I showed him the restraining order paperwork, explained they'd shown up uninvited, refused to leave when asked, and that Mom was the primary subject of the order, but all four had been harassing us for months. He took notes, asked if I wanted to press charges for the violation. I said yes. He nodded, radioed his partners outside, then asked me to stay inside while they handled it. I watched through the window. The lead officer outside pulled up the restraining order on his tablet, confirmed Mom's information, checked the service records. Everything was there. Certified mail. Court hearing. She'd been properly served months ago. He told her to turn around and put her hands behind her back. She started arguing immediately. Said this was insane, that she was just trying to see her granddaughter, that I was being unreasonable and the police should be ashamed of themselves for enabling this. The officer repeated himself, louder. Ma'am, turn around. Hands behind your back. Now. She complied. He cuffed her. Blaze stepped forward. This is ridiculous. She didn't do anything wrong. She's just trying to... Step back, sir. She's his mother. This is... The second officer moved between them. Sir, I need you to step back and calm down, or you're getting cited too. Blaze shut up. Rue was filming the whole thing on her phone, muttering something about police overreach and family rights. One of the officers noticed, told her she could film all she wanted, but they were all being formally trespassed from the property. He took their names, dates of birth, addresses, told them if they came back, it was criminal trespass and they'd be arrested on sight. Bryn just cried, didn't argue, didn't resist, just stood there looking like her world was ending. Mom kept arguing even with the cuffs on, said she had rights, that grandparents have rights, that I couldn't just keep her away from her granddaughter. The officer walked her to the patrol car, read her the citation for violating the restraining order, told her she'd be released after processing, but any future contact would result in immediate arrest. Then Rue opened her mouth. This is insane. You're arresting a grandmother for wanting to see her grandchild. I'm posting this everywhere. People need to know how messed up this system is. The officer turned to her. Ma'am, are you refusing to leave the property? I'm just saying this is wrong. That wasn't my question. Are you leaving or do you need a citation too? She glared at him. We drove 3 hours for this. I'll take that as a yes. He pulled out his citation book, took her information, wrote her up for refusing to comply with a lawful order to vacate private property. She looked genuinely shocked when he handed her the ticket. Blaze and Bryn left first, tires screeching as they pulled out of the neighborhood. Rue stood there reading her citation like she couldn't believe it was real. Then she got in her car and left too. Mom sat in the back of the patrol car, staring at my house through the window. I stood in my living room holding Ivy, staring right back. She looked defeated, small, like she finally understood that showing up uninvited wasn't going to work anymore. I kissed Ivy's forehead and went back to the party. They could leave the same way they let me, without looking back. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.